We are at the trade deadline for most leagues, and if you're in Dynasty, and I'm here to give you 2 buys, 2 sells, and 2 trade targets before we start week 6, and we'll jump right into it. It's Ja'Marr Chase. Granted, this is obviously more of a redraft focus show, but I feel like the window for Ja'Marr Chase has been open both in Dynasty and in redraft. Now, why would you be buying him after the disastrous season that has been the Cincinnati Bengals, and particularly since most people on this channel and most analysts have told you to sell most of the Bengals? Well, it's Joe Flacco. He's not here for a long time, but he'll be here for a good time. And I will say that I don't think that the quarterback play is going to be drastically good to where they're going to be competing for a playoff spot when Joe Burrow comes back. I'm not going to tell you that, but I will tell you that he does sling it and he does produce for all of our fantasy assets. So at least before people actually see the product on the field, if you can get in a trade for Ja'Marr Chase, or maybe if someone thinks that it's a fluky game coming up, you could send out a trade and have a premier player that I think should see an uptick just because Drake Browning was just so poor. I think the one season that we had of him being competent was obviously a fluke, and more about maybe defenses know exactly who he is at this point and they know how to scheme for him. So if there's a time to buy Ja'Marr Chase, especially in Dynasty, I'm going to buy him. If I need upside in redraft, is there any more upside than the guy that we were taking as a 101 in single QB? I think not. So for at least right now, if Joe Flacco is going to be on that team, I want pieces of the Bengals again, at least from T. Higgins and at least for Ja'Marr Chase. So I think he's a fun buy walking into week 6. Next, another wide receiver. This isn't quite as flashy, but he's someone that we've often prayed for to at least have some form of a breakout, and it's Chris Olave. His situation with the Saints has gotten so bad that it's not so much about what the quarterback play is as just staying healthy. And I think with Spencer Rattler, we have a little bit higher floor of quarterback play than what we originally thought, and he's at least not throwing hospital balls to Chris Olave. And I'm talking about actual hospital balls, not just anything across the middle of the field. That's term has gotten out of hand for several reasons I'll never understand, but I digress. Here's a fun fact. Chris Olave healthy, always a lead target share earner, and even though we haven't had that touchdown equity yet, he is top 5 in target share among wide receivers. More importantly, I know this has been a weird year for touchdown regression, both positive and negative, that I think at least from this perspective, we can expect a little bit of a bump in touchdown numbers for Chris Olave if he can continue this trajectory. Again, if you're chasing upside or someone who is just earning targets and we at least know is talented, I think Chris Olave is an intriguing option that I just can't stop buying. Now, before we get to the sells, as always, I want to invite you to like and subscribe because we want to continue to get you that content. Even when we're past the trade deadline, we have start sits for you. We have prop bets, anything that you might need throughout your fantasy season. And if you want access to all of our tools, articles, and all that fun stuff behind the paywall, go over to rotowire.com. Use the code YouTube15 on the screen, and that gives you up to 15% off on all of our tools and subscriptions at checkout. And we'll hop back into it. As promised, I will give you the sells. The first one, right off the bat, it's not pretty. It's Jalen Hurts. Now, I know that we like him as a high upside rusher, and there's a lot of talk about him as an NFL franchise quarterback. I'm not here to debate that. It's just the fact that I don't think that the upside is as high as, let's say, the upside is in a sell, where you could go and get someone maybe like Justin Herbert or Bo Nix or someone else who's maybe averaging at least 19 points per game, and then pick up another asset on top of that that could help you in the future. Now, I will give you some throw-in targets later, like I always do, 2 more at the end of this video. But for the sake of tearing down off a quarterback, Jalen Hurts just isn't doing it. They had 4 tush pushes in a row. That's something. The rushing is always going to be there, but there's just not that explosive passing, and there hardly has been that, but it's even less than what we've seen in the future. We already see that AJ Brown is disgruntled. Devontae Smith it's always been a struggle to get him involved. And Dallas Goedert looks like the de facto wide receiver one, at least from a touchdown perspective. And I don't think that's a good thing. So if I can go ahead and wash my hands with as many of these Eagles assets as possible and maybe pick up something else that's giving me the equal numbers as far as the fantasy points per game, Colin, and I can maybe pick up a wide receiver, tight end, running back, any type of depth that'll help me, especially if I'm dealing with injuries, I'm willing to go and send out offers and listen to deals whenever I can, especially with quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts. If you're in one QB, it might be a little bit more difficult, but in Superflex, I think there's deals to be had. Now, another one that hurts, and I want to preface this isn't about Dynasty at all. This is a strict redraft perspective. It's probably time to try to move Brock Bowers to get something else in return. I'm sure that there's a contender out there that's just fine who may be looking at 6-0, maybe 5-1, and they could use a tight end to help them win in the future. If you could pick up some of their assets that they're not starting, so you can let go of Brock Bowers, who may not even play this week. And let's face it, it doesn't seem like the Raiders are even good. Ashton Genty, kind of considered the same level prospect, albeit a different position, and he's not getting anything out of this offense. And a lot of that stems for Geno Smith, who's been on the poo-poo list for every analyst since week 1 after leading the league with 9 interceptions. And we circle back to Brock Bowers. I don't know if he's going to quite have that upside anymore, and I don't know if you can afford to wait on it, especially if you're staring down the barrel of 3-3, or you're really wondering if you're going to make the playoffs at this point if you only have gotten 1 or 2 wins. So if anything, Brock Bowers is a trade chip. That's kind of a Schrodinger's asset, meaning that no matter what, he is both a buy and sell depending on what perspective that you're in, because I think it's a buy if you're looking to contend, because again, if you have a good roster, you could afford to maybe shed something to go get something with higher upside in the future at a fun position. If you're not, he's possibly the only trade chip that could get you something decent in return. So if you're losing and you own Brock Bowers, now's the time. Now, as promised, it's the 2 trade chips that I like to add that may be a little bit lower value, and it's somebody that you can get in a package deal, or if you want to do a 1-for-1 trade, they're incredibly affordable. First one on this list, I told you to sell Brock Bowers. Well, someone who I may buy in return if I can get another tight end and another high-end asset. If someone has Harold Fannin Jr., if I could pick up a running back or wide receiver, throw in Harold Fannin back to me because I'm giving you that high upside, and especially now that Dylan Gabriel's under center in Cleveland, I feel like the upside for both tight ends, not just Harold Fannin, but David Njoku as well, is something that could be intriguing, especially when you consider that he's a rookie QB who doesn't necessarily have a strong arm throwing past the hash marks or downfield. So a lot of those targets that live around the line of scrimmage to the tight ends, especially since they're running a lot of 12 personnel and then running through Quinshon Judkins quite literally, it seems like there's a lot more left on the bone, and some of those early spike weeks and touchdowns that we saw from Joe Flacco can be a little bit more consistent in the future. And especially since he's had, even in PPR, a lot of single-digit outings, he's an affordable person that you could get for Brock Bowers. And again, I want to emphasize that they moved on from Joe Flacco, and they like what they've seen from Gabriel. And Shadur Sanders at one point was a top QB. So if they hit on either one of these rookies, I think that we're looking at a much better offense. Even though they've outperformed expectations thus far, there could be more in the future, and I want a little bit of a piece of that. And I think Harold Fannin is a lot more interesting to own than someone, let's say, like Jerry Jeudy within this offense. But I don't want to stop there because I'm still buying from the Browns. The last one I'm talking about on this list is Isaiah Bond. We've seen the targets uptick. We know that he was cleared from all that offseason drama. The Browns went in and scooped him up. I think he offers a more explosive element than both Jerry Jeudy. And of course, I'm only saying this about Cedric Tillman because he's injured, but Cedric Tillman as well. So if they can get Isaiah Bond out there as a rookie and he continues to earn targets, and then those targets can turn into actual real life receptions that give us points, this could be someone that you got for virtually free at this point that could be a weekly flex starter with upside. And again, I want to bring up, especially if Dylan Gabriel can improve, or maybe Shadur can, and give this offense a little bit more than what Joe Flacco gave, particularly in the turnover and touchdown department. So it's a weird time to be saying that maybe the Browns hit on a lot of these rookies, and I'm actually buying them at this point. But that'll do it for me. That was 2 buys, 2 sells, and 2 trade targets. As always, I'm Jagger May. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.